Welcome back. Justice Saldana, how come Karnataka is at the top of the list of most corrupt states in the country? No file moves in the government offices till palms are greased. Where do you think lies the problem? Who do you think is to blame? The political class, or the bureaucracy?
Can I give you a third alternative?
Sure.
I'm sorry to have to say this.
People themselves?
No. Please remember, Mr. Balram, ultimately when somebody is pushed to the wall, a citizen is pushed to the wall, what is his last alternative? His last alternative is to go to the judiciary. See, if a police officer misbehaves, you go to the magistrate, or the government misbehaves, you go to the High Court. Now, I am sorry to say this, I say it with tears in my eyes, but it is the fact that the courts have let the citizens down.
Sir, we can't put that on record. We have got into lots of problems because of that. We are immediately slapped.
So you restrict only to...
So I think better you stick to my question.
Yeah.
I am asking whether it is political. Right? Or why judiciary?
But I think you can involve corporates.
Come down very heavily. You know that. The makers do. He knows that. I don't go through that again. So just now you say, who is to blame? Why is Karnataka the most corrupt state?
Well, I also happen to be the chairman of Transparency International, which specializes in the fight against corruption and things like that. And sad to say, I am a Kannadiga, I love Karnataka, but Karnataka is a very prosperous state and God has blessed Karnataka in many ways, which also means that there is a lot of economic wealth in this state. Now, such a situation can be excellent for development, but it can also be a breeding ground for mass high-level corruption, as has happened. Now, this has happened because I would say because the political class has exploited the situation, and the other reason is because we have not had an institution that would check this. And that is the reason why we are so strongly addressing the Lokayukta issue. And one of the suggestions which I put forward, Human Rights Commission and the Lokayukta, is that it should not be based at the state capital alone, that you should have units in every district and possibly even right down to the taluka level. Because it's not very easy for people to come all the way here and lodge complaints. So the decentralization process is very important, so that we have one big, good, strong, effective machinery, and that will change the face of everything.
That's what.
Yeah.
But you want to add to this?
Coming back to your question of why Karnataka has become the most corrupt. See, there are basically two things. I think as head of transparency, he'll know better. In 2005, we were rated 4th most corrupt. See, that was the warning signal for us, for we Kannadigas to, on our politicians and our bureaucrats to stand up and do something about it. So the problem was, between 2005 and 2011, 2012, up to this day, the corruption has increased manifold instead of decreasing. See, the main thing is about the illegal mining and the land scam. I will get back to the Balasubramaniam report I was talking about, because that is a report, which he has given, and the guidance value of the land grabbed, encroached in Karnataka is about 1.9 lakh crores. See, the guidance value. So, you can imagine the market value, it will be more than 2.5 lakh crores. This is the largest, the scam of the largest magnitude of all the scams put together since independence in India. See, when the magnitude is such that, how can it escape from not becoming the most corrupt, of the dubious distinction of not becoming the most corrupt?
So
see, these are the...
Even when we are alerted.
See, even when we are alerted, see, we just sidelined it, you know. The thing is, why? Because the politicians were more interested, because they were minting crores and crores of rupees in this illegal mining, and the bureaucrats connived with them, because the Balasubramaniam report correctly calls this greed and connivance. See, the thing is, as long as these officers don't connive, see, one thing I want to point out, Mr. Balram, the politicians are a different set of people, but at least the bureaucrats should have stood up. See, because they are the custodians of the nation. See, today, even in the Hota committee report, they say civil servants are the custodians. So, they should have at least stood up at least a few of them should have stood up and said that, no, this is the wrong thing that is happening. So we'll end up in becoming the most corrupt state. We should do something about it. We should stand up and do something about it. We should at least advise the political class properly. See, that is
Justice Saldana, the noose is finally tightening around politicians, particularly ministers, something that we never witnessed before. I can say about 5-6 years ago. Say, my question to you is, should tainted ministers be dropped from the cabinet? Shouldn't they also lose membership of the legislature or parliament till their names are clear?
Absolutely right. Today the contention is, see, there is an old maxim, Mr. Balram, which holds good in the court. That is a maximum procedure in criminal cases, that there is a presumption of innocence until proved guilty. It's a procedural presumption, and it's a rule of procedure which the criminal court applies, because the onus of proof in a criminal case lies on the prosecution, etc., etc. That cannot be translated into public life, because if that is translated into public life, you will have the incongruous situation like is happening today, that see people like Mr. Yadurappa, who have 5 or 6 criminal cases pending against them. He says the presumption of innocence is there in my favor, and until I am convicted. Now a person is convicted, they say conviction is wrong until the appeal is over, and so on. So there will be now no end. And the principle of purity would require, and it applies in other parts of the world, because if you have been so much as arrested, then you will have to wait until you are cleared. That's a principle which applies even in respect of small cases, because they say that it is too dangerous. See, you don't take a risk. Suppose the man is ultimately convicted, then what happens? Can you go backwards and say that all his actions have been actions of a convict? Correct. Or of a tainted person? So the principle which you are advocating is a salutary principle. And let me add here that it is unfortunate, particularly after the Vora Committee report on political corruption, etc. The Supreme Court has on 9 occasions pulled up the central government for not making amendments in the Representation of People Act to prevent criminals from contesting elections, or people of criminal background, or people against whom cases are pending. But as far as that is concerned, all the parties and all the politicians are together in unison, and those amendments have still not been brought about.
Right. Mr. Ashri, every political party is bribing voters these days. I don't find any difference between anybody. Yeah. Obviously, good for nothing candidates most often win.
Yeah.
What do you think should be done to stop this menace? And what can your campaign do to stop this menace?
Yeah, I think it's a valid point, because ultimately what kind of people we choose matter.
Yes.
So in a democracy, and we are the people have the final say through voting. See, today what has happened is, as Justice clearly pointed out, there is no bar that criminals should not stand for, the accused should not stand for elections. So you can see that most of the MPs and most of the MLAs in all the state legislatures, they are accused in one or the other case. So the thing is, how can we, your point was, how can we do something about it? So I think we should slowly take up, because we have just formed a Save Lokayukta campaign today, because this is a burning issue in Karnataka. So we have taken up this, and slowly I think we should be able to extend it to the electoral campaign, that is awareness about elections, because today the educated class are not voting. See, the problem is, the voter who complains, the common citizens or the so-called educated class who complain about everything, they do not exercise their primary responsibility, they don't go and vote. So the people who are voting is the rural masses. They don't know anything about what is happening in the state level, they don't know anything that happens at the high level. So they are satisfied for what they get at the time of voting. So this is the main problem, and we have to create awareness about this. But I think slowly we should be able to extend our activities to all these things. So
something like what Anna Hazare is planning to do next.
Yeah.
He says always next.
No, but that depends. It depends mainly on the electoral reforms and all that. So the thing is, we can only create awareness among the public. As body formed for that. We can create awareness, we can tell them,
Yes,
you
awareness
please
is
go and
very
vote,
important.
or we can even tell the rural masses, see, because this is not a, even if we confine it to our own state, it's a massive exercise. So we have to plan about it
I'm
properly.
glad you people have
Yeah.
come together to take up this issue.
Yeah.
I think it's very, very important.